and welcome to Fraud Free Friday, which is produced by AARP Fraud Watch volunteers here in North Carolina. I'm David Kirkman, a Fraud Watch volunteer from Chatham County, North Carolina. I'm a former prosecutor in the North Carolina Attorney General's office who specialized in senior scams. Now, today's program is very timely. It's about holiday scams. But before we turn things over to our very special guests, there are a few announcements I'd like to make. The AARP Winter Scam Jam is now available online, and this provides tips and advice from the Attorney General, Secretary of State Marshal, and Fraud Watch volunteers from across the state of North Carolina that will help you to recognize and avoid holiday and winter weather scams. You can watch this anytime on Facebook at facebook.com/AARPNC. That's all one word, AARPNC. Or on YouTube at youtube.com, AARP North Carolina 1, numeral 1. That's all one word as well. If you have any questions for today's program guests, just please type them into the chat feature and we will get to them. And our presenter today is Randy Eastanovicius. I had practiced your name, Randy, so much this morning. I knew I would get it wrong. So
it was very close. So it is Eastanovicius, and it's a tough one.
Thank you. I'm so embarrassed. It's better than the technical problems we had last month, but still. And Randy is from the AARP National Office. She's the program manager for the AARP Fraud Watch Network and the Fraud Watch Victim Support Helpline, which we're all familiar with. In that role, she assists fraud victims on the road to recovery and oversees the onboarding and training of over 140 volunteers there in the call center. She delivers training and outreach to vulnerable groups and leads program development initiatives for AARP. Randy holds an MBA from Florida Gulf Coast University and a Bachelor's of Business Administration degree from Stetson University. Her professional credentials include being an enrolled agent and certified fraud examiner. And she is a Gulf Shore Business Magazine 40 Under 40 honoree for the year 2023. So welcome to cold, rainy North Carolina today, Randy. I hope it's doing much better down there in Florida where you're from.
Yes, hello from your neighbor in the south. We are sunshiny and no rain, although we could use a little rain. We've been in a drought. So if you could send some moisture this way, that would be great. But thank you so much for the warm introduction. I'm happy to be here today. And please don't feel bad about my name. I actually had to record it as a voice memo myself when I got married. So it took me a while to learn my own name. So I totally get it. And you did it was very, very close. Before we get into the holiday scam information, I just want to recap what we're seeing on the helpline overall so far this year. So this would be from January 1st of this year until November 19th when I pulled this data. So I'm just going to briefly go over the top 10 scams. And if we receive any questions regarding what kind of scams would fall into those categories, we can certainly cover that as well. But the top one is still identity theft. This has been happening year over year. It hasn't really shifted out of our top 10 scams, followed by imposter business, online dating, tech support, unauthorized money withdrawals, prizes, sweepstakes, and lotteries, imposter government, fraudulent sales, investment fraud, and phishing. So that's our top 10. But as you know, there are so many different ways that scams can be categorized, and a lot of them will fall into multiple categories. So that is the recap so far of what we have in 2025. But getting into some specifics for the holidays, what we really want to watch out for is unsolicited texts and emails about deliveries, tolls, or payments. Maybe you're expecting a package, and so the timing matches up regarding when you're supposed to get a package and that phishing text or smishing text rather. So maybe it says your package is being held because it didn't have enough postage, or we have the wrong delivery address. So when you get those kind of texts, we really want to just take that active pause and think about it. Yes, the timing might be right, but how are they contacting you? Would you have gotten a text message? Does it match the way you received your other alerts? If you got an order confirmation in your email, certainly it probably has a tracking number on it already. So don't click on those links in the text. Find another way to verify if it is who they say they are. You can call the delivery person themselves. So whether it's FedEx, UPS, Amazon, USPS, call them directly and see if this is valid. I also like to look for key characteristics. If it doesn't have my name in it, or it doesn't have an address of where it's going to, or it doesn't have anything specific about the business that's trying to mail it to me, it raises a lot of red flags in my mind about, is this really who they say they are? So just take that active pause. And, it can be helpful to run it past a friend or family member, because sometimes saying it out loud just gives all the indications of, you know what, now that I said it, I realize that it's probably a scam. And then two, we also have our AARP Fraud Watch Network helpline that can help you decipher some of these texts and give guidance as well. I'll repeat the number at the end of the show, but it's 877-908-3360. It is open to anyone regardless of age, and you do not have to be a member to utilize this line. So it's a great one to save. I always joke, we always think that we're never going to need numbers, but it's always good to have it. They always say when you become a parent to add the poison control number into your phone, but it's great to also add the Fraud Watch Network number into your phone just in case you need it. That way you're not struggling to find it in your time of need. Another helpful hint is there are a lot of people that are out there preying on our generosity during the holidays. So maybe they reach out to you saying that they're collecting money or gift cards for specific charities. And while there are a lot of reasons people might be collecting gift cards, for example, my daughter's school had previously collected gift cards for the military for when they were traveling through airports to use at food courts. But of course, it was through my school in person, and so we knew that it was legitimate. So you just want to do a little extra vetting. So if you receive an email claiming to be whoever, hover over that link, make sure it's really from a contact that you recognize. And also you can do some research at the irs.gov website. They do have a charity, it's really a tax exempt finder, but it helps you realize which ones are registered charities, or you can utilize charitynavigator.org as another backup to try to see if it's a legitimate cause to donate to. Another key reminder is I recommend using credit cards, not debit cards, not gift cards, not peer-to-peer payments when shopping online for better fraud protections. Credit cards have a great dispute process for if something turns out to be fraudulent, but the other methods are very tricky to get your money back should you become the victim of a scam. I also recommend that you monitor your accounts regularly. So if you see a charge and it was not you, make sure it wasn't your spouse shopping and forgot to tell you, of course. They might be trying to shop for you for the holidays and you just didn't know about it. But if it is fraud, then make sure you report it as quickly as possible to your credit card issuer using the number on the back of a credit card or your debit card, just to make sure you're not getting an incorrect number for your bank as well. Lastly, I recommend that you know your options for package deliveries. It's very tough to get packages during the window that they say, and the window will just change anyway. So I could just see someone taking off of work to make sure that they're there to get their very special gift for someone. And of course, it gets rescheduled to the next day after waiting all day. So there are some other options. One is if you really need to make sure it gets to you, require a signature. Then even if it doesn't arrive during your window, you can make sure that you at least sign for it the next day it comes. They will try again or tell you somewhere else that you can pick it up. They also offer package lockers now for a lot of different companies. So instead of having it delivered to your home, you can pick it up from a locker with a code that they give you. And another idea is to enlist help from your neighbors if they are maybe home more often than you are, or even having it delivered to your office if that's where you are during the day and your office allows it. So it's interesting because 92% of respondents to a survey we got recently mentioned that legislature should be stepping up to help us more. But I want to put us on the forefront of protecting ourselves because it will take time for some of those laws to keep up. So those are the initial helpful hints that I have. But I'd also like to take a minute to speak on gift card scams. I get a lot of questions on gift card scams, and I know they're still a very popular gift at the holidays. But I must say, gift cards are for gifts, not payments. I know this sounds intuitive, but sometimes these criminals are very convincing, and they may say that they're your utility company and you didn't pay your bill and they're going to shut off everything and it's too late to pay with your credit card or debit card, so now they need a gift card. When you're rushing for the holidays, or maybe you're trying to catch a flight, or you're working a lot extra because there's other things going on, you might not have that foresight at that moment to make sure that you don't send that gift card. So just remember, gift cards are for gifts, not for payments. Also, I get a lot of questions about gift card draining. So this is when someone tampers with the gift card before you even purchase it. So you may notice that on the gift card shelves at the store that the cardboard has been bent or there's something scratched off of it. That would be a good indication that your gift card has been drained and could have been tampered with. For these types of situations, I do like to pick a gift card from the middle of the rack or the back of the rack, where it's less likely that the criminal would have tampered with it, because the longer they're at that gift card tower, the longer it is that they could get spotted. So they usually will just pick a couple in the front and tamper with it. Now, when you go to check out, if the gift card's been tampered with, they are using AI systems to drain that card the second the money's put on it. So make sure if you're giving a gift to a loved one, give them the receipt that you purchased it with, just in case they have any difficulties trying to redeem their gift card. It's still not guaranteed that they will be able to get their money back, but at least it's a start for having some proof of that. As I mentioned in the holiday tips, there are scams popping up about fraudulent charities. Gift cards might be requested for charities or your church, or maybe it's someone impersonating your friend or family member. Think about it before you do that, especially if it's an employer. We've heard some scams on the helpline about employment scams for charities, where someone is reached out to by someone who is supposedly their boss, and they make it sound pretty convincing. Maybe they even hack the email address of the boss, and they're asked to order the gift cards for the entire company. And they order these cards, they ship them to the address that they're told to ship it to, and then unfortunately the money is gone, and they're probably in a lot of trouble with their employer for accidentally doing that. Wrapping up before we get into questions that anyone might have, we have some resources that I would love to share. We have a whole website about holiday scams right now, which is aarp.org/holidayscams2025. We also have our AARP Fraud Watch Network helpline, which I had mentioned earlier, but it is 877-908-3360. I'll take a pause here so that we can write down the Holiday Scams website and the phone number before moving on. Thank you for putting up our helpline number. Again, this is open for anyone, regardless of age and regardless if they're a member. Our helpline takes calls from Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time, so feel free to call during those hours. If you unfortunately become the victim of a scam, especially if it's online, I recommend reporting it to the FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center, which is ic3.gov. So I as in internet, C as in crime, the number 3.gov. And you can also report it to the Federal Trade Commission, which is ftc.gov. David, do you know if we have any questions?
I'm not seeing any right now, but I've got a few questions.
Sure.
I understand that AARP has done some research recently on holiday gift scams. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
Yes, I'd be happy to. And what's crazy is the statistics were a little bit startling. We found out that almost 9 in 10 consumers who took our survey experienced one scam this year. So that's pretty crazy. That's almost 90% of us have some sort of consumer scam. In addition, 1/3 of those people had purchased something online that resulted in a scam, which is a really large increase from prior years, which was really surprising to me. We've had 3 in 10 had a package stolen from outside their house. Darn it, porch pirates. That's always fun when you're trying to get something, especially if it's a rare item. 1/3 were targeted by fraudulent charity donation requests. This doesn't mean that they provided money to them, but it just they received an email or communication requesting it. More than half received a gift card that had a 0 balance, which if you're giving it as a gift is probably embarrassing. And I understand how frustrating that would be. So we want to keep on top of that as well. 2 in 5 users of peer-to-peer payment apps sent money to someone they didn't know. So I know payment apps are a convenient way to pay, but they really don't have any protections for anyone. And so they really should be used for sending money to your friends and families, or maybe paying your babysitter or someone else that you are doing business with, but you really know them, so that you're making sure that you're sending it to the right place.
Would this be payment apps like Zelle and Venmo?
Yes, absolutely. So in Cash App is another one of them as well. So, and I know it can be confusing since these payment apps are often listed, if you have a banking app, the peer-to-peer app is sometimes listed in the banking app as well, but they are not protected by the FDIC. So they do not have the same provisions. And you want to be really careful when you're sending money that way as well, because if you accidentally type the person's name wrong, maybe my name's Randy with an I, maybe they type it with a Y instead of the I, and it goes to someone else and that money is gone, and that person does not have any obligation to send it back to you. So if it falls into the hands of someone who's not feeling very kind at the holidays, you're probably not getting it back. So you do want to make sure that you're taking steps to protect yourself if you're going to send money to someone for the holidays. We do need a lot more education from the statistics that we have gotten. We're doing a good job of getting the word out there, but we need to do more. So, make sure that if you are tuning into this presentation, whether it's live right now or if you watch it on the replay later, that you share this information with someone who might need to hear it. We always take for granted that people maybe think that they know about scams, or I know I'm guilty of it sometimes. If I get a lot of fraud information, I'm like, oh, I already know that stuff. I'm a certified fraud examiner. I work in fraud. And so I really have retrained my brain to read everything that I get, because you never know if there's one detail or one twist that the scammers are taking that has changed from before. So the more we can share our stories with others and share what we're hearing is very helpful to our friends, loved ones, and communities.
Whenever I try to buy a gift card from the local grocery store or pharmacy, for my nephew or my niece for Christmas or their birthday, I'm almost always stopped. Maybe it's because of my thinning gray hair, but I'm almost always stopped and told by the checkout cashier, this could be a scam. Who are you sending it to? It seems to be that the word is getting out, at least to the business community. But I was also wondering, in the call center, what sort of horror stories are you hearing these days about these gift card scams? How much are people still losing?
That's a great question. And I'm glad to hear that retailers are being trained. There are a lot of retailers who will not sell gift cards more than $500 to try to prevent scams. But we have victims who are so under the ether of the criminal spell that they are going to multiple locations to get multiple gift cards. So even though there are precautions in place, and I'm glad that the cashier asked, I know it is, if you're buying for multiple family members, it can be frustrating to get asked that when it's really not a scam, but it is just another way that people are trying to help. On the helpline, we get calls where someone sent $30,000 worth of gift cards over the time frame of only a couple months. And so usually these are part of romance scams, or the beginning of a cryptocurrency scam, where they start with gift cards and then they move over to cryptocurrency. So it's really devastating to hear, because as soon as the gift cards are sent, they're gone. You can't get the money back. It's very rare that a business or the gift card company is able to get the money back. Still, if this happens, I do recommend calling the number on the back of the gift card, because if they can flag certain areas and maybe do a heat map or a scam map of who's using this card and where, they might be able to eventually catch the person or at least deactivate for certain areas. But it's still just devastating to see someone put so much money into the gift cards, especially, if they're going to get something in return, maybe like they want a new car and all they have to do is pay for taxes with the gift cards. And then before they know it, they've lost track of how much they've sent and they've paid for a new car basically in gift cards and they don't have the car. Or even too, I've seen it with, pet scams where someone wants to get a puppy for Christmas. And so they pay the person in gift cards because the person doesn't utilize peer-to-peer apps or gift card or credit cards, debit cards. They want gift cards to pay for this puppy. And so it is devastating to see that happen. So I'm very happy to hear that you were asked, even though it's frustrating, I'm sure.
Well, I was also told by a convenience store clerk that the Bitcoin ATM in their store seemed to be used only by older people who turned out to be scam victims. And that, this one clerk I'm thinking of, she's told me about one woman coming in one day and trying to put $8,000 into the machine. And she said she just unplugged the machine. She just got so sick of it. But do you see a shift going over to the Bitcoin or cryptocurrency ATM amongst the people calling the helpline?
We have gotten a lot of complaints about Bitcoin ATMs. They typically look just like a regular ATM, but they're not usually in regular ATM type spots. Like you're not finding them, at a drive-through at your bank. You're finding them in, gas stations and whatnot. And so it can be really scary because usually these scams are the result of someone impersonating law enforcement or saying, you've missed jury duty, there's a warrant out for your arrest, or they'll say your computer has been hacked, your banking account has been hacked, and we're with the Federal Trade Commission and we can keep your money safe. We're going to put it into a special locker. I need you to go, get all your money out of your bank so that we can keep it safe and put it in this account. So especially with the ATMs looking very similar to regular ATMs, if the person isn't aware of what crypto ATMs or Bitcoin ATMs are, they may be unaware that it's being used for a nefarious reason, and they might not know. Lots of ATMs have the signs on them, but when you're rushing and you think your whole life savings is going to be gone, you are probably not going to read the signs. So it's just one of those recognizing the red flags of what's being asked. And, it is sad because we've heard of, people putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into crypto ATMs and, that cashiers see the people getting tired and they'll bring a chair to sit in to put the money in the ATM. But then you also hear heartwarming stories where, the cashier is like, this doesn't seem right. And they call local law enforcement, and local law enforcement comes over and tries to talk to the victim and say, this is a scam. And sometimes the victims are still in disbelief, even with a police officer in a uniform telling them that this is indeed a scam. But it's one of the most devastating ways to lose money because it's usually a huge amount that's being asked for. They're not asking you to put $100 in a crypto ATM. They're talking about thousands of dollars. And once it's gone, again, it's usually gone. There are investigations that can be done, but of course, resources are limited and there's lots of cases. So you should always report, but it's not going to be a guarantee to get it back.
Back when I was a young attorney, just starting out in consumer fraud, this time of year was the worst time of year for any kind of scam. And it had to do a lot with, people were in a very charitable mood. And so there were lots of charity scams. People were also a little bit pinched for cash. And so they were more amenable to pitches about sweepstakes and investments, et cetera. And now it almost seems like, it's a 12 months out of the year situation that people are hit with these various types of scams, but there's still some very unique Christmas time scams or holiday season scams. What do you think the scammers are mainly tapping into these days when it comes to holiday scams?
You're right. The scams are all year, 12 months out of the year, and they're really just looking for vulnerabilities. So in convenience. So for example, we used to have the Publisher Clearinghouse scams, and whenever they'd be doing a drawing, we'd get a bunch of calls on the helpline about scams related to that. So timing is everything with these scams. Right now, the holiday scams that we're seeing the most on the helpline are gift card kind of charity scams. However, what I'm hearing the most about outside of the helpline is porch pirates. And one that I haven't really seen too much of on the helpline yet, but I'm sure we're getting into that season, is fraudulent sales in terms of like hot ticket items. So, there's always a hot toy every year. My daughter wants toys, and thankfully we're getting older now, and she's not so much into the hot items as she was, but you know how it is to be a parent and your kid wants this one thing and you're trying to find it. Well, guess what? It's probably existing on, disreputable sites, and it'll show a nice picture of it, and you'll think the price is right, it's fair, and you'll end up ordering it, and it'll either be a knockoff, or you'll never get it, or your credit card will be charged a million times for things that you didn't purchase. And so it's really important, again, to slow down when you're looking to buy anything online, especially since, we saw the statistic of 1 in 3 consumers being defrauded online purchasing. So, for example, if there's a hot item and you are looking for it and a couple websites pop up that says have it, I like to type in that website name in a search bar plus the word scam or the word reviews to see if that website is a reputable site or if anyone else has had unpleasant experiences with them. Because shopping at a reputable site is very, very helpful, especially in terms of customer service. So of course there can be bad businesses that just have bad customer service, but you certainly would have better luck even with the bad customer service than it being a scam site. So I think that those are the main ones: the online shopping, the porch pirates, and the gift cards for charities.
The fraud fighter volunteers that are watching this program, and any other person watching this program, if they're interested in getting involved with the helpline, AARP fraud helpline, what can they do to sort of tap into that opportunity?
Great question. And we right now are keeping up with our call volume with the volunteers that we currently have, but we are maintaining a wait list for anyone who would like to attend and get trained at some portion. We do not have immediate plans to continue onboarding, but as scams continue to improve, to get more intense or more people are calling us, then we may consider onboarding in the future. But you're welcome to reach out to us at AARP Fraud Watch Helpline at aarp.org. And I think that they will put that up in a second, but it's AARP Fraud Watch Helpline at aarp.org, and I can send some additional information about volunteering. And of course, there's other opportunities to volunteer. We have a fraud victim support group that is led via Zoom for those who have been the victim of a scam. We have the digital fraud fighters. We also have the digital watchdog alerts that people can sign up for if they just want to stay in the know. You can text 50757, so text FWN to 50757, and you can get signed up for the biweekly watchdog alerts. Or you can visit aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork as well. So there's a lot of different ways to volunteer with AARP if your passion is in fraud. Our helpline is just on a bit of a wait right now.
Well, that's good to know. I know that the helpline volunteers are especially trained to deal with people who have been victimized. Mm-hmm. And like I said, at this time of year is a high victimization time traditionally. What can our volunteers learn from your helpline volunteers about the best way to address somebody who's reporting having just been scammed or questioning whether something was legitimate that they gave money to? What are some tips for us?
You're right. And our volunteers do a 12-hour minimum training with Fraud Watch Network staff and volunteer training leads before they make calls on their own. And we have volunteers from a variety of backgrounds. Some come from fraud backgrounds, and others just have a passion for helping others on their fraud recovery journey. But the key takeaway that we like to instill with all of our volunteers, and which would be a great learning for anyone else who encounters someone who's been victimized, is make sure that you have empathy. They're already beating themselves up and feeling stupid for what happened to them. And they shouldn't be, because they are the victim. The criminal is the one who did something bad. But society sometimes, or loved ones who are frustrated, maybe if their loved one had all their savings taken from them, and maybe they're thinking, man, that was supposed to be my inheritance, or like, now, but we have to help my parents because they don't have money to pay their bills. They're already feeling bad. So just telling them something, victim affirming, like, I am so sorry that this happened to you. These criminals really did something terrible to you, or I'm sorry that happened to you, but we're going to figure this out. And just being there for them, and just knowing that a lot of scams happen as a result of either, a vulnerable situation. Maybe they just lost a loved one, and so they're feeling lonely, and they, they're filling the time that they used to have with someone else, and socializing with a scammer. And I've had someone tell me that they knew the person was a scammer, but they still talked to them, and they still sent them money anyway because they had someone to talk to around the clock. And, this is because these call centers, particularly for, romance scammers, they're sitting in a room with a wall covered with cell phones that they're texting these people from. And they have a little roller chair that when the phone pings, they roll over to this phone, and then they roll over to that phone. And so it's a lot of, behind the scenes stuff going on. But if the person's lonely and they wake up sad at 3:00 in the morning and they text this person, they're going to answer. If they text them at midnight, they're going to answer. If they text them at 6 p.m., they're going to answer. So it's a sad situation for anyone that's encountering this. But I also like to remind people that in addition to the empathy, try to call them, take them out to dinner, help them find a group, that is something that they enjoy. Maybe they always wanted to learn how to knit, and there's a group that they could learn how to knit in, or maybe they always wanted to learn pickleball. Try to help them get back out there so that they don't just isolate themselves due to, any shame that they might be feeling. And that's the really big part of why I love our volunteers so much, is that, they hear the craziest stories, and they treat everyone who calls us with empathy and make sure that they feel valued. Our average call time now is 22 minutes. So every time someone calls us, they're probably getting a pretty, long time with us, right? We're not just going to say, okay, here's the resources, have a good day, bye. It's really letting them talk about what happened to them, and really figuring out how we can best guide them in terms of what is still needing fixed. While we can't fight to get their money back for them, we can give them steps on how to try, or how to secure their social security number and stuff like that.
One of the things that I realized, and my colleagues realized throughout the years, is that during Christmas and also around Valentine's Day, that's when the romance scams would really kick in, because people were feeling lonelier during those particular times of the year if they didn't have family around, or they weren't being invited down to Florida to be with the family, et cetera. And it was just a sad time. And that's when the scammers would just go to town on all these people they identified as possible targets. And when there seemed to be the most need for people like your helpline volunteers to sort of talk them down, to get them, out of the ether, as you referred to. So it's a very timely thing. It's a very scary time also for sweepstakes, because it used to be that, Publishers Clearinghouse would have their big January giveaway, second or third week in January. So all the Publishers Clearinghouse Prize Patrol ads were on TV throughout late November, December, and early January during the holiday season. And the scammers knew that too. So that's when they would call up and they would pretend to be with Publishers Clearinghouse or any other made up sweepstakes company. But people just had it in their brain of, a big van pulling up in front of their house, a big check being presented to them, and it made them more vulnerable. So it's just a vulnerable season. If I could just throw my 2 cents in there.
You're completely right on that. And the romance scammers, they really play a long game too. So they may pop up at the beginning of Valentine's Day and actually spend money to send a gift to a victim to try to gain that trust and that rapport. And it's a natural feeling if you've invested a lot of time with someone, and maybe it's a year or even later that you find out they're a scammer. You don't want to accept it yourself. You're like, this can't be, and it feels like a real breakup. So this is a real relationship to that person, and so it's devastating to see people not only lose money but to lose their spirit too. So it's tough.
Well, I'm noticing that AARP has a volunteer helpline. If you want to learn more about volunteer opportunities, you can email AARP Fraud Watch Helpline at aarp.org. And a while ago, we were talking about places to report scams. There's a very easy one to remember here in North Carolina. It's called 211. It's run by the United Way of North Carolina, and they have their own call center that will take calls on a lot of different topics, including scam victims. So I just wanted to get that out there as well. So.
Perfect. Yeah. And it's great to have all the local resources as well. Our national office, we serve all the states and territories, plus Mexico and Canada. So we don't always have the exact information by state at hand. So sometimes, we'll look up the information, or we'll just try to, make sure that we're pointing them in the right direction. And so we love having partnerships with the state AARP offices, and 211 is always a great resource, as you mentioned as well. So that's always great to have the partnership.
So we have a question from Carol. She wants to know a repeat of the best way to check websites.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's tough to know, especially there's a lot of, mom and pop type businesses that, maybe wouldn't have the range of a, big box store. And so to check to make sure that they're legitimate, I recommend using your favorite search engine and just typing in the name of that website, and then adding the plus sign, and then adding the word scam, or adding the word reviews. So it would be, Randy's website plus scam, or Randy's website plus reviews, because odds are if someone ordered off of their website and had a bad experience, or it's a scam, someone will have said something and it will show up. And that's just, it's not going to be foolproof, because there's always going to be new websites that pop up, and criminals can clone websites, and there's a lot of different ways that it could happen. But at least it is showing that you've done some research, and it will probably weed out some of them. And it's just one of those things that you don't want to have not only your Christmas or holiday present or birthday present or any present not show up when you're expecting it to, and then have to deal with your credit card agency to fight it, that it was not you that charged 30 other things to it, but this one I tried to, and it was a scam. So it just saves you some time if you take that quick search first.
And this is from Rebecca. Does AARP have resources to help and support fraud victims? And you mentioned the support group. There's some others.
Yeah, so most of the information is at aarp.org/fraud watch network. That's a good start for a landing page in terms of learning about all things fraud. But I also recommend that they can call our helpline anyway. Even if you haven't been the victim of a scam, you can call and get guidance on that sort of information. We can email you resources. We can snail mail you resources if it's needed. We prefer digital. We're trying to be digital first, so and save trees. So we can send you that kind of information as well. But I like to err on the side of caution. So if you get a letter in the mail and you're just not sure that it's who you think it is, or maybe you get an email and it could be true, but you're just not sure, run it past us. We don't mind getting a call. We love getting calls and talking to people, and we certainly have enough volunteers, so you won't be waiting more than a couple hours to get your call back. So just feel free to do that, but just keep in touch with the news. And I know North Carolina probably has a lot of resources available as well. And so it's just helpful to hit this challenging dynamics of fraud in multiple areas between law enforcement, AARP, and then individuals just really out there spreading the word and supporting others in their time of need.
Well, you're a certified fraud examiner. I wanted to ask you, what are some important things for fraud victims to collect and to present to law enforcement or to the bank, for instance, if they're investigating you're being scammed through their systems?
That's a great question as well. I'm full of great questions. I love this part of stuff too. It's great to keep any sort of correspondence you've had with the scammer. You know, even if they have spoofed their number, where it's showing that it's coming in from one number, but it's really, you know, a digital number that doesn't exist. It's helpful to keep any sort of text messages, call logs, text logs. You can take screen caps, any emails that you have of that sort of situation. If it's an online like sale type thing, keep your receipts, keep your credit card statements. If they have sent you any pictures that are purporting to be themselves, but it's really, you know, some model on the internet, keep those pictures as well, because those are all things that can link people to the true person. It's also, it's technical, but if you can get their IP address somehow, I won't get into how to do that portion, but if you do have their IP address, that can help with investigations as well. And, you know, on that note, if you are going down the route of talking to your non-emergency police about filing a report, they are obviously very busy and their job is to investigate crimes. So it's not always the case, but sometimes they may not have as much empathy for the victim at that time simply because they are trying to get the facts. So what I like to tell people is, if you are the victim of a scam, go into your police department or ask for the non-emergency officer to come to you and say, I am the victim of a financial crime. So I'm the victim of a financial crime, and then just stop talking. Let them ask the questions at that point. Have your papers ready, print it out, make copies for yourself and for them. And just know that it's a long process and that they simply can't get to every single case. And some are outside of jurisdiction. So, you know, I still say do that, because if you have a police report, it's also more likely that your bank will be able to help you with the situation. Again, still not foolproof, but at least if you show that you filed a police report, it shows that you have taken steps to try to get this handled from your end.
Well, Randy, I still can't do it.
I admire the effort.
This is all really good information. I just wanted to see if there's anybody else out there listening in today. If they have any questions, to please put them in the chat. If you got that on the system you're watching us on. And there's a question that just came up. Does AARP offer local presentations to people? And
we do. And I bet, Dave, you probably know better about your North Carolina local presentations. I do presentations virtually if I'm requested. I'm happy to do them. I don't mind doing them at all, but obviously I'm in Florida, so I can't really get physically to North Carolina. But Dave, do you have more information on presentations in your area?
Yeah, anybody is interested in having somebody, one of the local fraud fighters here in North Carolina, to do a presentation. We've got a lot of good people all trained up and raring to go. And just contact the state AARP office, tell them what you need, and we will try our best to get somebody out there to give a really good presentation on whichever type of scam you're concerned about. It can be scams in general, it can be IT scams, it can be informational scams involving theft of your identity. Whatever type of program you're interested in, if it has to do with fraud, we've got lots of good people. So anybody who's watching out there who's not part of the Fraud Watch network, please take advantage of this opportunity here in North Carolina. And I think both the national and the state AARP websites have some fabulous resources on all these different scams. And also the mailings, the publications that come out from the National AARP office, the bulletin and the magazine, always have lots of information on various types of scams that are out there or that are coming, or seasonal scams like the holiday scams we're talking about mainly today. So, and before we close, Randy, I just wanted to ask you if you had any more hot tips for us to protect ourselves here during the holidays.
I do have one more kind of creative and unique thing that I like to suggest at the end that doesn't typically seem to come up in very many presentations. But with the rise of online criminals trying to access email accounts, for QR or not QR codes, for multi-factor authentication codes, I like to set up a email address specifically for online ordering, so that all of my emails for any account that I have to set up online is going just to that email address. And then I never share my personal email address with anyone other than friends and family, so that way, other than the platform that is hosting my email server, there's no other way for it to be disclosed, like if there was a data breach or something like that. So that's really helpful. And then also using that two-factor authentication is key. So if someone tries to maybe they purchased your password on the dark web, and now they have your password, so they log into your mail account and they're able to get everything. Setting up that multi-factor or two-factor authenticator is just an extra step. It will send a code to your phone usually, and there's other ways that you can manage that. But the bad part is someone has your phone that also has your email address, and it also has your text number. If they get into your email, they try to reset your password and it sends it to your phone, they already have it. So just make sure that you also have a passcode on your phone, that you don't click any links that maybe could take over the service of your phone. But it sounds like a lot of scary stuff out there, so I don't want to end on a sour note. This is a cheerful time of year, and so if we just keep positive and look for these red flags, and we're going to be much better off. We just have to stay 2 steps ahead of the criminals at all times, since they have nothing but time on their hands to figure out new ways to scam. But I have confidence that we've got this. We've got the tools in our toolkit. And if you need more, you're always welcome to reach out to our helpline, and of course the North Carolina resources as well.
Well, thank you so much, Randy. This has been wonderful. A lot of really good information. And so if I get a call or a text or an email from, say, Amazon, as I'm buying all these Christmas presents, and they're asking me for my password and my login, and to read off the number that just came on my telephone, what should I do?
Hang up, delete the text, mark it as spam, do whatever you need to do, and then go to your actual Amazon account and see if there has in fact been an order or it's flagged. I mean, I had one time that my credit card rejected because it thought it was a fraud, and I went into my account and sure enough, it showed that it was rejected. And so I was able to fix it right in the account. I did not need to go anywhere. And while we're on that subject as well, there are a lot of companies that no longer maintain phone numbers for customer service. So please do not go online and search for a customer service number for the company. Always get the number or the way to chat for help from their webpage that is legitimate, because otherwise you don't know who you're getting.
Yeah, I've noticed it's harder and harder to get a real customer service line anymore.
It is.
Even with an insurance company. It's maddening.
Yep, it is. And a lot of it is chat-based as well. And I'm never certain that I'm getting someone real versus, an AI bot. So it's one of those things that you want to be patient when you're dealing with that. And sometimes I just say representative over and over and over again and hope that it eventually bounce me to someone. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't, but be the squeaky wheel. And if if you can go somewhere in person to try to get it accomplished. I know it's much more convenient when you're busy during the holidays to try to do things online, but if there is a physical store or a physical branch, that might be a better place to start, just for your safety and financial safety as well.
Well, thank you, Randy, for being with us here today, and I hope you enjoy the sunshine down there in Florida.
Thank you. I'll try to do a Mother Nature swap, so that you get the sunshine and I get some rain. And I don't think we're going to get snow down here, so can't hope for that. Thanks for hosting today, Dave, and thanks for having me. I hope it was a helpful program for everyone, and we're here if you need us.
Great. And everybody, please join us again next month for the Fraud-Free Friday. And until then, please have a wonderful holiday and a happy new year. And thanks for joining us, and join us again next month. Bye-bye.